Let's do something else. This is using the batch number. This is kind of an advanced concept, but people ask, what is a batch number? Well, it turns out when we send people into an archive to acquire images, we, over the years, used an internal number to keep track of those images to help us organize the work internally at FamilySearch. People figured out really quick that those batch numbers that FamilySearch was kind of secretly assigning really represented a place and a type of record. And so they started building lists that this batch number represents marriage records from this place, this parish, etc. And it turns out that ends up being very useful. Genealogists are very clever, and they figured that if we search on these batch numbers repeatedly, we can reconstitute families based on the principle that families often lived in the same parish for multiple generations. Let's go do this. I have a Mary Leah. She's from Shropshire, England, and I want to find her, her father, her grandfather, and reconstitute her family as much as possible. So to do that, I'm going to do a search. It's the logical first thing to do. I put in Mary Leah. I put in her birthplace, Milbrae, Shropshire. I put in a date range that covers the year she was born. And I told the system I only want records of type birth or birth-like. Doing that search, I get back about 80 results, but I'm really pleased that the first one is actually her. I see Mary Leah. It has her birth date, her place, and her father and mother's name. Opening that record, and I hope everyone knows you can just click on this row and we will open up the record in place. I can see all the information there, but there's this number on the side, indexing project batch number. That number right there is a critical piece of information that allows me to do this repeated batch searching. Taking that P016071 tells me a lot about this set of images. If you want to know what the P batch number is, go to the FamilySearch wiki. The letter preceding the batch number designates what kind of record it is, and P means birth records, M means marriage records, and so you'll learn that in the wiki page. But so if I take 16071, P meaning christening, M meaning marriage, I can then put in some information that I found in Mary's tree. From the birth record, I learned that her father is Thomas, her mother is Jane, and she was born in November 1802, which leads me to the next question that I want to ask. What's Jane's maiden name? And when was Thomas and Jane married? Well, to do that, I have enough information. All I have to do is change the P at the beginning of the batch number to an M and put in some different information on the form. Let's go right back to where we were. This is the search we did for Mary's birth record, and I'm going to alter some of the data on the form here on the left-hand side. I'm going to change the name to Thomas Leah. I'm going to put in a spouse's name of Jane. Notice I use that same batch number, but I put an M for marriage records. So what I'm really doing is I'm telling the system I want to search just in this parish, but I want to find all the records where the spouse is Thomas and Jane. And when I do that and click search or update, it brings back one record, which is awesome. Opening that up, I can see that Jane's maiden name was Yeastrop, and they were married on the 1st of June, 1789. So I can go add that to my records, when they were married and what her name is, which brings me to the next question. Can I go find Thomas's birth record? Because that'll tell me who his parents are and when he was born. Well, indeed I can. I'm going to go back. I'm going to put Thomas Leah. I've closed down the spouse. I've changed the batch number back to a P, and I did the search. And I found a record for Thomas Leah, male brace. I find his christening date, and I find his father and mother's name, Richard and Elizabeth. So going back to my tree, I can put that information in. Notice how I'm just swapping from birth record to marriage record repeatedly and following this family back in time inside this parish. I may wish to know what Elizabeth's maiden name was, or when Richard and Elizabeth were married. Or I might ask the question the other way. I found Jane and Thomas and Mary. Did Mary have any siblings? Well, using the same principle, I can work down the tree as well. In this case, I'm going to go back. Notice I'm not putting any names up here in the ancestor name field, but I've said show me all of the records where there was a birth from 1790 to 1820. Why? Well, they were married in 1789, I believe, and let's give them a year to start having kids, and they're probably going to have kids for maybe as much as 30 years. I want all the records where there was a birth in that year range, and the father was Thomas, the mother was Jane, and only show me birth records from that parish. And when I do that search, I get back a bunch of siblings. Thomas and Jane are the parents. You can look at these year range and they fit. You can just see which kids were married, are born in succession. And so this is great. Anyway, you can use that batch number to reconstruct families.